Right. So this is our first webinar, well, from me for this year. So very welcome to all our old participants as well as any new people. I'm very happy to see that you logged in. And although it's February already, I wish you all a wonderful 2022. I think for all of us, it can only get better from here. I think we've been over the worst. The last 2 years were the worst. So I think it will get better from here on forward. And therefore, I'm also very happy that you are starting with a stress management course this time of the year, so that you can get to know some things that you can do this year and learn some good habits that will take you through the rest of the year. So join us for all the other stress management, emotional intelligence, all of those courses, because we will be building on them. There will be a follow-up on the emotional intelligence as well. And so keep an eye on your emails for the invites to the webinars. All right, so I think we can start. It's now 9:02. So let's start. Before we start, I just wanted to make note again. Please make a note of the fact that we will be presenting a study methods webinar for all students, not just children. It will be for students and for adults that's studying maybe correspondence or full-time. It really does not matter. On the 23rd of February, I think it's if I'm not mistaken, in 2 weeks' time or so. So please make a note of that. As part of that, the stress management is also included because the stress will also help you with that. So anyone that you think will be interested, it is very, very good. It will help everyone prepare for this year. All right, so let's start. What we're going to talk about today is what is stress? How does worrying affect you? But then we're going to look at the difference between stress, worry, and anxiety. And most importantly, the difference in the one that we're going to do today from the previous ones that we did, we're going to include resilience. So there's actually 4 factors that we're going to talk about: stress, worry, anxiety, and resilience. So if you thought that they're all the same, they're actually not. There's a lot of things that you can do something about. So it's good news for you today to know about this. So then we're going to look at what you can do about stress. There is a small little exercise. That's why I just have a piece of paper close to you. I just want to get your mind thinking about these things. Then we're going to look at the understanding of the brain and positive brain programming. That will help you understand what happens in you when you stress and how you can deal with it. And yes, you can make it better. If any one of you thought that you can't, and that's just how you are and who you are, now you're going to start changing your thinking and your mind, because you don't have to suffer if you suffer a lot. And then there's going to be tips to help with stress. Right. Okay, so just to introduce myself, I'm Cecilia Denton. I'm from a company called PTES Consulting. So that stands for Psychometric Testing and Evaluation. So we do psychometric assessment, and the HR Talk that's arranged these webinars, they do HR support. So we work together to make it easier in the organization for our clients. So always thank you to the HR Talk that's arranged all of these webinars. All right, so let's start with what is stress. So for you that have done the stress management before, you will remember this, but I want to recap it because it's very important. All right, so what stress is the body's reaction to any change that requires adjustment or response. So it is the reaction to these changes with a physical, a mental, or emotional response. So stress is a normal part of life, and you can experience stress from your environment, your body, and your thoughts. So everyone suffers from stress. Even if you walk from one room to another, there's a small difference in the room temperature. Your body needs to adjust to it, and it's during the adjustment phase that we either do it well or not. I can tell you now that in the last 2 years, the psychometric assessment that we've been doing, the pessimism and the levels of anxiety has increased in a way that I can't even explain to you. So almost everyone that we test, the stress is incredibly high. So I can tell you now that the stress levels from the last 2 years amongst everyone is sky high. So don't think that you're alone. Don't think it's just you. Be mindful that people around you are also stressed. So if you see people driving a little bit erratically, or that they're just short and whatever, just know that they are feeling like you. So try to have that mindfulness. The stress levels, I can tell you, is extremely high. So let's start with the symptoms of stress. So there's a few symptoms of stress. You have emotional symptoms, there's physical symptoms, and I want you to start differentiating in yourself, like identifying how you're feeling, where it comes from, and why. If you just have a better understanding of yourself, you're already going to start treating these things easier. So emotional symptom of stress is when you become easily agitated, frustrated, moody. If you feel overwhelmed, like you're losing control, having difficulty relaxing or quieting your mind, feeling bad about yourself, lonely, worthless, avoiding other people. So that's just the emotional response. So don't have a fright when you feel any of these things, or if you feel highly irritated. That's probably the most common one that we will feel a lot of the time. Just step back and say, oh, wow, okay. Like yesterday, someone literally parked in a parking that I was waiting for, and I never thought that would irritate me, because you see it on TV and you have a laugh about it. When it happened to me yesterday, I was actually quite surprised, and I thought to myself, whoa, that's weird. Okay, just step back. So just be mindful of that when you feel like that. Don't shove the feeling aside or think that you're not supposed to have it. Just acknowledge it and just let it be. The physical symptoms of stress is low energy, headaches, upset stomach. You can have diarrhea, constipation, nausea, aches and pains or tense muscles, chest pains, rapid heartbeat. Also, don't confuse too much coffee when you have a rapid heartbeat with too much coffee. Rather than think about, why are you drinking so much coffee? Are you trying to focus more, focus better? All of those little things actually contribute to this. Insomnia, you can't sleep that well, frequent colds or infections, because remember, when you are vulnerable, you will get colds more or more infections. So we are also going to talk about how to help your immune system. So it's going to get very interesting today. Loss of sexual desires, things like that. That could also be long-term stress. Everyone is different. I know that I'm different by the end of a year. Then everyone knows now already, before December, I get the same pattern. Nervousness, shaking, ringing in the ears, cold, sweaty, hands or feet. So you've got immediate things, you've got medium length things, and then you've got long-term stress. So be aware of that. Dry mouth, difficulty swallowing, clenched jaw, grinding of the teeth. So you've got all of those type of things. Then you've got cognitive symptoms and you've got behavioral symptoms. So the previous one was emotional symptoms. The second one was physical symptoms. Now we look at cognitive symptoms. Now the cognitive symptoms, the easiest one I can tell you, you remember in school or in important meetings or when you have to speak in public, going blank, that's a cognitive symptom. The first thing with children is that they think that they're stupid. It's not. It's a cognitive stress. So it's constant worrying, racing thoughts, forgetfulness, disorganization. When you grab something, leave it. When you're all over the place, calm down, step back from the problem. Inability to focus, poor judgment, being pessimistic. So can you see now that if we pick up pessimism repeatedly under the people that we are testing on a daily basis, it's a cognitive form of stress. It's not always there, but it pops up. And that's just the stress that you have now. That's your symptom at this point. A behavioral symptom would be very much in the behavior, changing in appetite, eating too much or too little, procrastinating. That's a typical one. Or avoiding, when you can't get started and you postpone, it's a sign of stress. You're not lazy or there's nothing wrong with you. It's in a heightened form of stress. Increased use of alcohol, drugs, or cigarettes. People are probably, what I've seen, increasing the use of alcohol and things like that. Try and substitute it for things like meditation or exercise. because we just naturally go in a specific direction. Then exhibiting more nervous behaviors such as nail biting, fidgeting, or pacing. Nail biting, you'll know when it increases, that's it. All right, then different types of stressors. We'll talk about that right now. So firstly, stress equals tension. So stress could be described as the inner psychological, emotional, or physiological tension in the muscle. This condition happens when more is expected of you than you can actually handle. So this indicates that the individual does not have the ability or infrastructure to cope with the demand. Think about the last 2 years. I've never been in a pandemic before. I can also tell you that I've never seen so many people being placed in new jobs and shopping for new jobs than I have in the last 2 years. So just be mindful that we are in a different time and that everything is heightened. You have to do work in 30 minutes time that you can only do in an hour. Stress is caused. More is expected of us currently. We also see a lot of people now where the one partner has got work and the other one doesn't. It has happened before that both people don't have jobs at the moment. So all of those things are putting pressure on you. So adrenaline and noradrenaline is secreted in our bodies. And if this continues over a period of time, it causes the body to become ill or cause physiological discomfort. Did you know that the only way that you can get rid of adrenaline and noradrenaline in your blood is exercise? So you know that the answer is exercise and meditation and good sleep. It is your responsibility to do something about it. That's the only thing you've got control over, if you think about it. So you know it. So make a conscious effort to do something about it. Okay, so you know what it is that's happening at the moment. You know what you can do about it. So I'm here today to just refresh your memory, to remind you again. All right, so let's do a stress self-check. At this current moment, what are your main causes of stress and what are your symptoms? So write down on a piece of paper. This is not for anyone to look at. This is just for you. What is currently your main causes of stress and what are your symptoms? And you're welcome to share it on the online chat here. And I want you to share because I want you to see that most people are experiencing the same thing. So the stresses that we could be having is external and internal. So externally, deaths, injuries, illness, relationships breakdown, being a victim of crime, retirement. So remember, there's a whole bunch of things. Particularly at the moment, we have COVID-related things. There are actual COVID stress with related to work. And then you've got actual loss of family and friends. So please share what it is that you've been experiencing. So these things are external. Internally, you've got expectations, you've got demands, you've got misperceptions, assumptions, there's fear, there's anger. So share anything. If there is anything that you want to share with people, you will really be surprised. We are sharing a lot of things with each other at the moment. Okay, so as long as I just want you to differentiate between where it's coming from, you could also currently be having both. Right. How does worrying affect you? So how do you worry? I'm going to give you a textbook definition of worry. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to break it up. I'm going to analyze it and show you how useless it is. So how do you worry? From my experience, it seems that people worry because of a few reasons. So firstly, let me tell you, stress management is separate from worrying. Worrying is a habit. It's a learned habit. Stress management is the infrastructure to cope with something, and it's something that's currently happening. Worrying could be about something that does not even exist. It can exist, for example, job loss, or it doesn't exist. Like I'm thinking people at work don't think I'm really doing that great, or you're worrying about what could happen in the future. So worrying is different. It's quite an active what is the word? Proactive thinking about something that can go wrong. But I'm going to define it for you just now. So firstly, the reason why people worry, they imagine that they can prevent bad things from happening if they worry enough. They imagine that if they don't worry, it means that they don't care. It's not the truth. So please read this again. I'm going to send you this presentation when we finished here. Think about, why do you worry? Really go and analyze, why do you worry? So both of these beliefs provide a false sense of security because it's not true. In fact, some researchers have found that the reason why we worry is due to the absence of facts to prove that everything will be okay. Without the evidence, we worry because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So the actual fact is that we do not know whether everything will be good or bad. That's the only thing you really know. So we actually do not know anything. This creates doubt, and doubt. Yes. So sorry. When this creates doubt, when doubt arrives, we treat this as fear. So ultimately, life and our futures are unknown. So the only thing that we can be certain about is that we do not know anything, whether it will be good or bad. We don't know anything. All right. So for example, if I worry that I may get into a car accident when going on holiday, it is a useless effort because we 100% do not know whether we will be in a car accident or not. Think about what it is that you worry about. You don't know what's going to happen. So I'm going to show you how to manage that. So the truth is that worry has absolutely no purpose and it is totally useless. Although you think you're being productive, it's useless. Worry is based on fear and not on what is likely to happen, but what would be terrible if it did happen. Isn't it true? Think about it. Really think about this. It's not about what is likely to happen. It is what would be terrible if it did happen. So our minds often like to imagine what this terrible outcome would be, which is all based on creative and proactive thinking. Okay, so I want to show you this definition of worry. This is really a textbook definition. Worry refers to the thoughts, the images, the emotions, and the actions of a negative nature in a repetitive, uncontrollable manner that results from a proactive cognitive risk analysis, because that's what you're doing. You're very proactive about what could possibly go wrong to avoid or solve an anticipated potential threat. It's an anticipated potential threat. It does not necessarily exist already, and then there are possible consequences. So let me read it again. Worry refers to the thoughts, the images, and the emotions and the actions of a negative nature in a repetitive, uncontrollable manner that results from a proactive cognitive risk analysis that's made to avoid or solve an anticipated potential threat and its potential consequences. Right. Let's look at the first problem with that definition. Okay, so the first problem with that definition is now primarily the above definition refers to a negative thought. So interestingly enough, we do not always focus on the possible positive things that could happen. But for the most part, we brainstorm all the sorts of different things that could happen and that are negative or disastrous. So the example is, I will not do well in my test, or I fear an accident while driving on holiday. So it's a negative thing. We don't worry about the positive things that can happen. Isn't it true? That shows you that this is a habit, because if it was a good habit, we would worry about everything. So the solution is, the reason why people do this is to avoid disappointment. So when I do fail my test, I can at least say that I knew it will happen, or I was prepared for it. I at least know that I did that as a student. I wanted to be sort of prepared for it. So this is a typical defense mechanism. So of course, if I preempt a car accident, if I go on a holiday, I won't be so shocked or surprised because I was expecting it. It's like defending yourself. So in some way, I could possibly be hoping that the pain will be less when I get the news. So the solution, okay, this is your solution, and you're going to do this for every time when you worry. You're going to direct your thoughts back to neutral. The bottom line is you 100% do not know what will happen. So allow yourself to accept this as a truth. You 100% do not know what is going to happen. And that is why if you accept that is a truth, you can handle it better. Okay, so the second problem that I have with that particular definition, did you see that they refer to proactive thinking about the risk of what can go wrong? Very proactive. This is what makes worrying so exhausting, because we're proactively thinking about what could go wrong. So this suggests that we run ahead with what could possibly happen. That is, of course, negative. So we actively and proactively think about the consequences. Calm that voice down. So once again, I want you to go back to neutral, because if you don't think about what could possibly go wrong, you could actually, in fact, think about what could go well, because that is the thing that we don't do. We only go to the one side, but think about also what can go well. So the solution here, my proactivity is possibly related to previous experience, because we are making something up. We make it up because we've seen it in the past, or we've heard that it happened to others, and we definitely don't want the disaster to happen to us. So you calm down this proactive, creative thinking, because once again, you actually don't know what's going to happen. Remember, every single situation is different. Even your events or experiences from the past, the next one that's going to happen is going to be different. So although there are similarities, the outcome may be different. So once again, you do not know what's going to happen. So take your thoughts back to neutral. All right. If anyone has got any experiences or questions that they want to share, please share it in the chat box here. Okay, let's look at the third problem that I have with that particular definition of worry. Okay, so we convince ourselves that we know what will happen. Then we can prepare ourselves for the result, and it will not be as devastating as we were expecting it. So like children or students will always say, oh, I always do bad in my tests. Or I'm going to use the same example again. I worry that we will get into a car accident while driving on holiday. So the solution here is, you can do practical things that's in your power. You need to accept what is in your power and what is not. So practical things are in your power. What will happen in the future is not in your power, but you may be able to do simple things that could have an influence on the future. So for example, you can save money now for the future. You don't have to drink and drive. You can plan your studies. To do well in a test, you can attend school and you can put the time in to do your test. You can manage your tests and stresses effectively. You can draft a roster. You can schedule your studies. You can take regular breaks. You can rest well. You can eat well. Those are practical things that you can do. So if you drive with your car on holiday and you fear an accident, you can do the following things. You can rest well. You can take frequent breaks. You can eat well. You can focus while you're driving, not be on your phone. You can keep to the speed limit. Now, those are things that you can do to influence what's going to happen in the future. So even if something goes wrong, you can rest assured that you did not do anything bad intentionally, but that your intentions were good. So those things are important for you. Manage those things. Those things are important. So the reasons why people think in disastrous ways, there's a lot of reasons, and maybe you need to analyze your own reasons. Why do you think in a disastrous way sometimes? So it could be because predicting disaster often creates a false impression that we will avoid disappointment. We resist changing our thinking patterns because it's less effort and more comfortable to choose the old way of thinking instead of changing it to a new way of thinking. Low skills recognition in oneself could lead us to believe that we do not have the necessary skills, knowledge to complete a task. So also sometimes it's almost like we don't want to be too confident because we're worried that it's not going to work out well, and then you'll feel even worse. But low skills recognition is very, very important. So low self-esteem could lead us to believe that the effort that we put in is not good enough. Experience. We've seen it in the past and we are convinced it will happen again, or it has happened to someone else. So remember, bring your thoughts back to neutral. You do not know what's going to happen. Lack of support from others. We will be talking about support in the next few slides, and don't underestimate this. It's quite important. All right. Let us look at the difference between stress, worry, and anxiety. So it is 3 different things, and you need to know the difference so that you can manage it. Right, so if you thought that stress, worry, anxiety are the same thing, we can teach you something today. They are not. They are, however, linked. So here is what you need to know about the differences between these concepts, and this will help you to manage it. So, okay, so stress, it happens in the body. Stress is an emotional response, and it's usually caused by external triggers. So the external triggers can be caused anything from exams, traffic, boyfriend-girlfriend problems, poverty, COVID, unemployment, unfairness at work, illness, and more. So it could be anything, and it's usually by an external trigger. So let's look at worry. Worry is different from stress in the sense that it mostly internal thinking that happens in the mind. So it is often triggered by something that is real in life, for example, getting cancer or losing a job, but it is followed by unreal, imagined thinking that it could or will happen to you. So it can either be real, true, or it is imagined. The other thing is it can be real, but then it's followed by even more disastrous things. So can you see that it's always linked to this imaginary things that sort of worse. So there's two things that people do. We exaggerate and we generalize. So I want you to remember those two things. Human beings exaggerate and we generalize. Now, you could be right when you are worrying about something, but generalizing or exaggerating makes it worse. So remember, I'm not saying that your worry and your concerns is not important and it does not exist. What we are trying to do here is take your worry, your stress, and your concern and help you to manage it as optimally as you possibly can. Because something like losing a job, getting sick, getting cancer, those things are real and it is serious. But when you are in those things and dealing with it, I want you to deal it as optimally as you possibly can. It would be even better. Of course, it will be great if some of those things didn't exist and you just worried that it will happen to you. Then you can deal with it in a different way. Some of these things are happening with people. So what you want to do today is managing it as optimally as you possibly can. So there's stress. Here is worry. Let's look at anxiety. So this is how everything links together, is through anxiety. So anxiety happens in the mind and the body and is caused by persistent, excessive worrying about things. So now you're taking worrying a step further. It becomes persistent, excessive about things that is happening or could happen. So interestingly enough, this can happen even when there are no stressors. This is very important for you to know. A lot of people sit with anxiety. They've just accepted that I'm an anxious person. I'm just always anxious, and they sort of try and live with it. You don't have to. You can minimize it to a very big degree. So if people think that stress and worry and anxiety, that's just how it is. No, it's not. You can really address it and minimize it. Remember, you don't want to get rid of it necessarily because you get good stress and bad stress as well. But let's just finish this sentence. So interestingly enough, this can happen even when there are no stressors. So anxiety can happen even when there are no stressors. On the other hand, a buildup of a lot of stressors over a long period of time can also cause anxiety. So unfortunately, anxiety is the same symptoms of stress. So really, I want you to start differentiating between stress, worry, and anxiety. Okay, I see there's no questions for me so far. I hope that you are thinking about this and what happens in your life specifically. But now, remember, I just referred to good stress and bad stress. So you also don't want to totally get rid of all anxiety and stress, because sometimes good stress is the thing that prompts you into action. It motivates you as well. It drives you as well. So you don't necessarily want to eliminate stress and anxiety 100%, because good stress is what makes me feel excited. It's when your heart rate is increasing. There's a rush of hormones. It makes us feel good. We could experience this when we compete in competitive sports or go on a first date. So just remember, you don't have to be 100% stress-free. It doesn't mean that you're perfect then. Get rid of those thoughts as well. Bad stress is when we can't adjust to taxing demands. This may be when demands are externally unreasonable. Whatever the reasons, our bodies cannot adjust or adapt to the demands. This is when stress goes into distress. That's when it doesn't work. All right. So differentiate between that as well. You don't have to be 100% stress-free. It's not necessary. Right. Now I want to go to the fourth point. So the fourth point is resilience. So what is resilience? So people underestimate what resilience can do for you. So it is a skill that takes practice, and you can practice it. Don't think that when you are not resilient, you are quite sensitive, and you don't bounce back so easily that you just have to deal with it. You can, as a matter of fact, practice this and get better at it. So resilience works like a muscle that we can build through effort and repetition. And we want to keep our muscles strong and flexible so that we can think of many ways to solve a problem. So at the core, resilience is the belief that while you cannot control everything in life, there are many aspects you can control, including your attitude. Now, resilience for me probably links directly to your attitude. Let me see if there is a question here. Is anxiety always a disorder which needs treatment, or can we live with it? It's not always a disorder. So you do get anxiety disorders. That is when you possibly have gotten real exposure as a child where your infrastructure wasn't put in place the way possibly as it should have been, the confirmation that you got from parents and other people that everything will be okay. But I must tell you that people diagnose themselves with anxiety disorders way too quickly. You could have 85, 90% of very bad anxiety during the day, and then you can still treat it and you can still do something about it. It is all about your attitude, whether you believe that you can get better. So don't think that if you sit with it that you can't do something about it. So let's talk about what it is, because remember, resilience will directly influence your stress management, your anxiety, and your worry. So this would be a big part of your answer. So resilience is when something goes wrong, do you tend to bounce back quickly or do you fall apart? And remember, you can practice this. Start thinking about it logically. So if you're in a job where you get a lot of rejection, like a sales position, call center type of job, or any business related job or anything, even when you are dating, you get a lot of negative feedback or rejection from people. Start thinking about it logically. That is just not that person or that company's need at this stage. They're not just rejecting you, they're rejecting the need that they don't have. That's why it looks like it's you that's being rejected. And isn't it also fine if you do get rejected? That does not mean that you are bad. You are just not the fit for that particular person or that particular sale. The person doesn't have that need at the moment. So start thinking about it more logically. So let's look at resilience as a definition. When you have resilience, you harness your inner strength that helps you to rebound from a setback or a challenge, such as a job loss, an illness, a disaster, or a loved one's death. It can be anything. It can be a small thing. It can be a big thing. Resilience comes into play in all scenarios. So if you lack resilience, you may dwell on problems. You may feel victimized, become overwhelmed, or turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms such as substance abuse. You can also start dwelling on it and start your internal dialogue is what you say to yourself, maybe repetitively negative and bad. You can do something about that. That's nonsense. You stop that a negative type of talk and you turn it into a neutral talk or a positive talk. So even if you struggle to get rid of the negative thoughts, what will help very well is if you replace that thought with a positive thought. So don't try and squash this thought necessarily. Just get another thought. They say that the more you're trying to squash a thought, the more it wants to try and pop up because it's trying to remind you that you mustn't have the negative thought. So get a positive thought on this side. So you have your negative thought on that side, have it there, but have your positive thought on the other side. So just replace it with a whole bunch of positive things. And I'm going to teach you later on. I just want to keep an eye on the time that Even if you don't believe yourself, the biochemical process in your mind will still take place and you will start believing yourself. Okay, so did you get everything that I said there now? Because it's actually very, very important. Let me just look at the Q&A. All right, we addressed that one already. I like that logical thinking approach to rejection. It makes sense. It does. Be aware of the fact when you start feeling like a victim. Become aware of that. Acknowledge it when you say, I feel bad. What you can do to help yourself is go write it down. Just go write it down. Don't try and necessarily shove it aside. Write it down and then neutralize it to yourself. Also put yourself in the shoes of say, the client that's rejecting you, or the person that you wanted to date rejects you. Just put yourself in this. Maybe they're just not feeling like that at the moment. That does not make you a bad person or not good enough. That's your own thoughts. All right. So resilience won't make your problems go away, but resilience can give you the ability to see past them. That's fantastic. Just look past them and find enjoyment in life and better handle stress. If you aren't as resilient as you like to be, you can develop the skills to become more resilient. I'm going to show you how. Then there's adapting to adversity. So resilience is the ability to adapt to difficult situations. So become adaptable, flexible, practice it. When stress, adversity, or trauma strikes, you still experience anger, grief, and pain, but you are able to keep functioning, both physically and psychologically. However, resilience isn't about putting up with something difficult or being stoic or figuring it out on your own. In fact, being able to reach out to others for support is a key part of being resilient. So don't think that you're supposed to be a robot or not feel the pain and the anger and whatever. Feel it, acknowledge it. And then replace some of your negative talk with positive talk. But don't think it's going to disappear. You're not a robot. Accept it and have it there. But also have your positive thoughts on this side and say positive things to yourself. So resilience and mental health. So resilience can help protect you from various mental health conditions as well, such as depression and anxiety. Resilience can also help offset factors that increase your risk of mental health conditions. Okay, so I'm going to show you, let me just go to the next page, of what you can do about it. So the first thing, and you know actually the answer to this, is to do exercise. And everyone knows this, and so few people always do this. Go for a run after work. Clear your head, clear your mind, because running or exercising also allows you to breathe deeply. And when you breathe deeply, it's the same as meditation. You breathe, you clear out your system. For me, meditation works incredibly well. I do it 1 hour per day religiously. I don't care whether there's time or not. It brings me back to centeredness. And what that does, it sort of puts your problems outside of you. So you know these things. Everyone is talking. Meditation is a buzzword. Exercise is a buzzword. You all know it. You've got no excuse for not doing it. I would actually like to know how many of you, of all our participants today, actually do some form of exercise or meditation in a day. And I can tell you, there's a whole bunch of you that don't do it. Okay, so resilience. Focus on the things within your control. Look at what it is that you can do. A victim is a person who doesn't do anything. They just sit and they repeat negative things to themselves. Say positive things to yourself. You can do it right now. You can say anything to yourself. Make it a habit. Start saying good things to yourself. Accept change by looking to your past. So accept when things are changing. Prioritize relationships. So relationships are very important. We tend to neglect this, and especially now in times of COVID or stress, talk to people. Don't keep it to yourself. This is one of the most important things. Don't withdraw in tough times. So this would be one of the other important things I would really want to focus on today, is to not withdraw in tough times. So people think that other people don't want to hear their problems. They don't want to talk to people and reach out to even professional people if you can, or to just friends or family. This is very, very important. Try to avoid negative people. So you will know when that happens. When you talk to people about your problems, remember that doesn't necessarily mean that you are negative. It just means that you want to talk about things that's happening to you, but avoid useless negative talk. And if you can hear other people talking to you in a negative way, avoid it. Expand your social network. Go out, go do things, go experience things, go do things that you never usually do before. So expand your social network, go do things that you don't usually do. Get enough exercise. This one is the easiest and the one that people do probably the least. Practice mind and body relaxation. They're everywhere on the internet now. You have guided meditation techniques. There's the Art of Living, which is a non-profit organization that's worldwide. They've got courses over weekends that's online, that's participative. It's very, very, very cost effective. So it's the Art of Living. Google it. Reframe your interpretations. This was the other one that I wanted to stress today. Reframe your interpretations of things. Remember when I spoke about thinking logical about things? You may interpret rejection as there's something wrong with you. There's not something wrong with you. That person or entity or whatever just does not have a need for that right now. It's not necessarily you. And remember, how many times do you reject people? That happens so easily, we don't even think about it. If you really go and look at it, how many times you've rejected someone that you're not interested in, you don't think about that. They just, because that's easy to do. But when someone rejects you, it's a disaster. It goes both ways. It happens 50-50. If you think about it very clearly, and then if you want to look at business scenarios, in business, an entity will just reject you purely because they don't have the need at this point. So don't take it personally. So think about the way that you think about it. Here you've got your negative thought. Here's your positive thought. Identify what you can control. Seek support. Embrace challenge as and failure. So this is going to be the other very important thing I want to tell you today. Prepare and be okay with criticism, feedback, and rejection. Accept it as a part of life. That is the number one thing that breaks down people's resilience, is that they never, ever want to have criticism or feedback or rejection. And I'm not saying shove it aside. What I'm saying is accept it, see it, acknowledge it, and it's over there and it's fine. But then on this side, start writing down the positive things that is working, how many times you actually are successful. And that's just the thing that's happening. It's not the end of the world. It's not the be all and the end all. It's just a thing that's happening. All right. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So let's look at another example of resilience. It's the capacity to bounce back. The capacity to bounce back. So if you feel very bad for 5 minutes, it's fine. As long as you don't dwell on something for a whole week or a month or forever, then you're not doing it right. Then you need to exercise your muscle. You need to get better at it. So if you have resilience, if you do feel bad about something for a short period of time because you're bouncing back. So can you see that I'm not saying that you mustn't have it? You will experience the pain and the rejection, but then you bounce back. So please don't think that you're not supposed to experience or feel it. That's not what I'm saying at all. Experiencing it actually means that you're a normal person. So you want to experience it and then move on. So let's see, there's another question. What can one do if he or she does not have an identifiable trigger to anxiety? Okay, so what you mean here is that you just have anxiety, but you don't know why. It's possibly, highly possibly your own thinking, your own thoughts, because anxiety and stress must have a trigger. You are just incredibly unaware of it. And if you can't see an external trigger, it's possibly your own thoughts. You need to start becoming very, very, very aware of what it is that you say to yourself when something happens, what goes through your head. If you can start identifying the thought as it comes, you're already on a very good foot. Usually when I tell people when something has happened or at work in general, what do you think? What is it that you say to yourself? Then they take a long time to think what it is because they're not aware of it. Start identifying what it is that you think and say to yourself. because that's the thing that causes your anxiety. And usually it's linked to a feeling of, I'm not good enough, I'm not going to make it. That causes anxiety. Happiness and satisfaction and contentment doesn't cause anxiety. That's why when you meditate, you're in a state of absolute contentment and relaxation. That's why there's no anxiety. So when you've got anxiety over here, there's something triggering it. And this will be your number one exercise from now for this year, is why do you have the anxiety? Try and write it down. When you start feeling anxious, work it back. What just happened and what was you thinking about it? This is going to be your number one exercise for 220. Okay, so let's look at, I just want to keep an eye on the time because I really want to go through the anxiety, what it is, what you can do about it. Resilience can be defined as a physical, mental, emotional, psychological aspect. Sorry, I made an error there. So resilience is physical, mental, emotional, or psychological. It also relates strongly to our immune system. So, for example, our body being able to be a good soldier. This is not only preventative, but also fighting a current infection, like infections actually in your body, because it all relates. High stress makes us sick. So there are a few components that's very important. So diet, good sleep, exercise, stress management, relationship management, investing in joy and happiness. So stress is one of the most important aspects that affect the immune system. This is related to our metabolic system, and under stress, we will have flare-ups of normal things that's in us. Like, for example, after COVID, I had a massive heightened hay fever thing because my body wasn't fighting effectively. So even though COVID was gone already, my body was struggling and I got the hay fever, massive hay fever issues afterwards. So there was an actual case study of married couples, and this actual scientific study was looking at how the healing of blisters in couples that resolve their conflict firstly with animosity versus amicably. And it actually showed that the couples that resolved their conflict with animosity, their blisters took a longer time to heal. The couples that resolved their conflict amicably, their blisters took quicker to heal. So this is an actual study that was done at a university. So don't ask me how they got the blisters, whatever, but it was an actual study that was done. All right. Let me go to the next one. Right. Resilience is not only mental, physical, psychological, and emotional, but also an immune recovery. So ensure a healthy diet with micronutrients. Use only small bursts of supplements, because the problem is as soon as you use a lot of supplements, people neglect their diet. So you want to get your nutrients through your diet. This is very, very, very important. So here I'm saying to you, follow an holistic, colorful diet. That's why I have a pretty picture, a colorful picture up here for you. This is what your diet should look like. So I'm not going to tell you what to eat, but it must be green, it must be bright red, it must be bright blue, bright yellow. There's your answer. A good sleep is very, very, very important for the body to recover. And did you know that steeping iceberg lettuce, the very cheap iceberg lettuce that you can buy in the shop, you steep it in warm water for 20 minutes and it promotes sleep. So I've tried it. I slept very deep. I don't know if they've done scientific studies on this in particular, but it worked for me. Try it out and have fun with these things. Don't just reject it, whatever. Play with it. Another tip that I want to give you today, a power antioxidant is in grinding the dry pomegranate peel. So grinding up in a fine powder, dried pomegranate peel. So this contains flavonoids, phenolic acid, and tannins. This fights against infections, including heart disease, and it restores as well. So the iceberg lettuce also have flavonoids in it. So it's antioxidants, and it's got powerful things that makes you want to sleep. The pomegranate dried powder, you drink it with water. You can even put it on your face. The powerful antioxidants that's in it's very good for you. And then hay fever, of course, I've researched this because I struggle with it. So you steep it like tea. Pieces of apple, orange, ginger, mint, and stinging nettle tea for 30 minutes and you drink this with lemon and honey. Listen whether it helps for your hay fever or not. Getting in the nutrients is incredibly good for you. So let me just look at the chat. What do you do with the lettuce? Do you eat it or put it on your face? No, the lettuce, you steep it for 20 minutes and you only drink that water. So it just tastes like lukewarm water. It's not disgusting or anything. I love it. I drink herbal tea in any way constantly, so it doesn't bother me. But try it. It's cheap, and you just take a few lettuce leaves, so you can get about 2 cups out of it. It's just interesting. Play with these things. Don't take it so serious. Play with it. Google health things that you can do for your immune system. All right. So there's 3 F's that you need to follow. Fitness. So for resilience, fitness, but practice emotional resilience, immune resilience, mental and emotional fitness. You know what it is. It's exercise, eating well, and resting well. Then there's family. That's the second F. Appreciate the value of family. And then the last one, faith. Faith in people, faith in your own competence, faith that everything will be okay. If you don't think that things are going to be okay, the burden that you carry is hectic. So meditate, relax, grow your confidence in certain things. You know what it is that you can do. It's not a secret. We have all of these things right in front of us. And then I quickly want to go through the tips to improve your resilience. Get connected, build relationships with people, make effort with your friends and family, make every day meaningful, get a sense of accomplishment. Now I'm going to go back to that old thing where they say, start in the morning with making your bed. It sounds stupid, but have a clean, neat place that you can live in and work in and make your bed. Have a nice duvet cover with nice pillows, make your bed. Learn from experience. Think of how you've coped with hardships in the past. You've come all of this way. You are already where you are today. That wasn't by chance, and you're not doing too badly. So you've coped with, think about the things that you had to deal with. Think about the things that you've coped with. Loss of work, not having money. You've gone through it and you've made it. Remain hopeful. You can't change the past, but you can always look forward to the future. And you will remain hopeful by doing things like exercise, meditate, talking to people. Take care of yourself, tend to your own needs and feelings, participate in activities, hobbies, and enjoy. Get things that make you happy. Read a book, small little things. Enjoy the rain. Get out and do something out there. Go hike. Go walking. Be proactive. Don't ignore your problems. Instead, figure out what needs to be done. Make a plan. Get organized. And work at it step by step. Step by step. All right, and lastly, don't take everything so serious. This is the other tip that I want to give to you today. Observe problems. See it as it comes and it goes. Observe it. But don't take everything so serious. All right, we've got 7 minutes left. So I'm going to go quickly through. I wanted to do this stress exercise with you, but I don't think we're going to have time for it. So please take note of the next time when we have the stress management course. But you can go through all of these exercises. So firstly, when you manage your stress, look at your emotion that you're experiencing. Then look at the situation that you're experiencing. And then look at your physiological symptoms that you're experiencing. So this is stress. I'm just going to cover this very quickly. Firstly, you have a situation, then you've got an emotion, and then you've got the behavior that you'd want to adapt to it. Now, there's a secret. And for the person that asked me earlier on, but if I just have anxiety, what do I do if there's no trigger? Now, this is your answer. So there is a situation. And remember, the situation could be very subtle, like just being at work, maybe not feeling as adequate or competent as you want to feel, or you don't feel financially successful, whatever. So your situation can be anything. And it can be something like traffic, or it can be your own thoughts. Now, the secret is your thinking about it. The thinking is the thing that controls every single thing that I've talked about here today. That triggers the emotion. And that emotion can be your anxiety. And then you have the behavior, and the behavior is maybe procrastinating or not doing it at all because I'm anxious and I can't deal with it. So for the person that asked me about the fact that there's no trigger, please take note of your thinking. And then there's a question here: is burnout related to pressure the same as stress? Absolutely. It's a trigger, and that can be external and internal, because externally you've got a hell of a lot of things to do, maybe studying and working or whatever. But the problem is you've got your own thinking, the things that you say to yourself. For example, you're not allowed to take a break or take time to go run and think about it, because that's what causes burnout. Burnout is really a massive lack of resting and recovering. So work the recovering and the resting into your day. All right, let me just quickly see what else we can do. So this is the group exercise, but you can do with this when you get the presentation. Understanding the brain. So there's a secret that I just want to quickly tell you. The mind is made up of a whole bunch of dendrites. So whatever you say to yourself, positive or negative, this has got an impact on the dendrites in our brain. And when the hair follicles on the dendrite decreases because of our negative self-talk, the message can't go through. So whenever you talk to yourself in a negative way, and you may be very unaware of this, but this is the thing that makes you unable to remember, clearing, stressing even more, breaking out in a sweat, going blank. It's your self-talk. So the secret that I wanted to tell you here today, please listen to this carefully, even if it's the last thing that you listen to. Your brain does not know when you're talking the truth. The brain only knows what the truth is by experience. So if you tell your brain you are stressed, it's going to believe you. If you tell your brain that you're not capable, it will believe you. If you tell your brain that you're not good enough, it will believe you. If you tell your brain that you are prepared and relaxed, it will believe you. If you tell your brain that you are good enough, it will believe you. So you're gonna say now to me, but I don't believe it. I don't believe that I'm relaxed, and I don't believe that I'm competent. You don't have to believe yourself. So the biochemical process takes place automatically if you start talking positive self-talk to yourself. So even if you don't feel it immediately at that moment, if you start having self-talk, positive self-talk to yourself every single day, your body, your brain is going to start believing it. So you don't have to consciously believe yourself. Because if you tell yourself, listen, I'm not stressed, but you are stressed, it will start believing yourself. So please just take note of the secret. Most people don't know this. It's very important for especially students that write exams to believe this. You have to start repeating positive statements to yourself. So I want you to get 3 standard things that you say to yourself, and you start randomly saying that to yourself every day. And whether that is I'm calm, I'm competent, I am well rested, whatever it is that you want to say to yourself, repeat it to yourself, whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter. And then there's some tips. Listen, we've covered all these tips already. But let's go through it quickly. We've got 1 minute left. So eating healthily on a daily basis. Remember your colorful diet. I actually wanted to show you a packet of chips, and I forgot it in my kitchen today. But if you look at a packet of chips at the back, like Willards or Simba, whatever, when you look at the ingredients, it's got an E at the back. That E is a chemical. So whenever you, even in stock, when you look at stock that you cook with, if you look at the back of the packages, if it's got an E at the back, it means that there's a chemical in there. It's a preservative. So avoid those things. Become aware of what is good for you now, because every time when you take a chemical into your body needs to fight it. That's why I'm saying go back to food that's not processed, or it must be raw or slightly cooked, but colorful. So exercise regularly, take vitamin B supplements, but rather try and get your supplements through your colorful diet. This supports the central nervous system. So also too much coffee affects the central nervous system. That makes you anxious as well. So for that person who asked me about the anxiousness, be mindful of the stimulants that you're taking. So coffee, spicy food, and anything that winds you up. So you could also be confusing your general anxiousness with what you're taking into your body, but it could also be a combination. So become aware of what you take into your system and what stimulates your central nervous system. Get enough sleep. Do not sacrifice a good night's rest for studying or additional work. Meditate, yoga, breathing techniques. Learn methods that suit your personality. Anything that you find fun and play with it. Burn aromatherapy oil. So this influences the brain chemistry, the stress levels, and hormone production. So play with things like lemon verbena for when you want to concentrate and study. Lavender and chamomile when you want to relax. Learn breathing techniques. Don't take any new funny medications or funny things before an exam or before you do something important. Don't forget the benefit of soothing music. So Baroque music in particular calms you and at the same time optimizes your concentration. It's been scientifically proven. So please Google it. It's everywhere on Google. In YouTube, you've got Baroque music. Keep a positive attitude. Accept there are things that you can't control. That's probably going to be your biggest thing. Be assertive instead of aggressive. Manage your time more effectively, set time limits appropriately, and say no to people. Being structured and organized is your answer. I know a lot of us don't like it. Be structured, be organized, and make your bed. And seek social support. Okay, so people are saying this. Thank you, it was very helpful. Keep an eye out on the other ones that we're going to have, because we're going to have the stress management, and then this is the one additionally with the resilience together with it. And then we are going to do the emotional intelligence again, and we're going to have a follow-up on that one to show you how to build your emotional intelligence. And keep an eye out for the study methods one that's on the 23rd of February. Please, whether it's you that's studying while you're working, or for anyone that you know that's got especially high school students or university students. We also have, I think, body language. There's a few others that we're going to build on in this year to, so that we just create more workshops for you that will make you better in your life. So let me just put there's a breathing technique if you want to have a look at it. There's our contact details. So if you want this presentation, let me know, or let the HR talk know, and I can forward it to you so that you can read through it again. And I hope to see you in our next sessions. And I think we are literally right at time. It's 3 minutes past 10. Let me see if there was another question. No, there wasn't. Okay, perfect. So I really hope to see all of you in our next round. If you've got any questions, you can email me separately or whatever. But I really hope to hear from you. And I would like to know from you what works and what doesn't work, please, because we all learn from each other. All right. So have an absolutely fantastic day. And we will see you in the next webinar. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.